Lydia fam. This video has been on my heart for a while. I've spent most of my life feeling different and not knowing why. Today I want to share my story. Not for labels, not for attention, but for understanding. If you've ever felt quiet, overwhelmed, misunderstood, or like you've had to work harder than everyone else just to exist, this video is for you. Even as a child, I felt things deeply and intensely. I was sensitive, emotional, and easily overwhelmed. And I want to say this clearly, my childhood itself wasn't bad. I was loved. I just often felt misunderstood. I preferred adults to children. I liked helping teachers more than playing with other children. I usually played alone, not because I was lonely, but because I felt safer and more comfortable that way. But to other children, that made me weird. I was bullied for it, and I learned very early on that being myself often came with rejection. At school, when I was upset, I didn't know how to explain it. I would completely shut down, head down, quietly crying, hoping someone would notice I was struggling, but at the same time not wanting to talk if they did. Teachers sometimes said I had an attitude or I was stubborn, but inside I wasn't being difficult. I was overwhelmed and didn't have the words. As I got older, I became very quiet. I only spoke when spoken to because being quieter felt safer, less risky, but that also meant that a lot of my needs went unseen. I didn't know how to ask for help, and I didn't really know what I needed help with. Socializing has always been exhausting for me, even now, even online, even through text. I can talk to people and I can seem confident, but it takes a huge amount of energy. Afterwards, I feel physically drained. I replay conversations afterwards for hours, days, sometimes even years, worrying that I said the wrong thing or was misunderstood. I often feel like people secretly hate me, even when I know I was trying to be kind. Small talk feels fake to me. When people ask, "How are you?" I know they usually mean hello, not the real answer. And I struggle to answer questions back when getting to know people, trying to make friends. Not because I don't care, but because it feels unnatural and sometimes pointless. Phone calls are especially hard. I can't talk on the phone unless I've planned what I'm going to say beforehand. Otherwise, my mind goes blank and I panic. That's why my husband handles the phone calls. I organize things for him because he struggles with that. My emotions have always felt bigger than I can control. Rejection, criticism, or humiliation hits hard. As a teenager and an adult, when overwhelmed, I've shouted, slammed, or isolated myself, which a lot of people wouldn't expect from someone who's known as the quiet one. I never did that because I wanted to hurt anyone. It was because my body felt flooded and needed escape. I remember when I was in college and I found out my grandma had passed away. Instead of telling a tutor or asking for help, I locked myself in a bathroom stall crying until my mom came to collect me. Looking back now, what I once called overreactions don't feel like that anymore. They feel like emotional overload I didn't have language for. From the age of 11, I had what was called panic attacks. But looking back, they didn't feel like fear in my mind. They felt like my body was completely losing control. The last one I had was about 2 years ago, and that was especially intense. I was jumping up and down, flapping my arms, spinning, unable to stay still. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Even music made it worse, to the point where an ambulance had to be called. At the time it was frightening, but now I recognize it as extreme overwhelm rather than anxiety. I've always had sensory struggles too. Mess overwhelms me instantly. A messy house doesn't just look untidy, it feels loud in my head. Bright lights, unnecessary noise, and visual clutter can cause headaches and nausea. Clothes can physically irritate my skin so much that I just want to rip them off. That's why I usually wear the same kind of clothes every day. I don't wear makeup. I wear this Sans headband almost every day because even my hair can feel like too much. That's also one of the reasons why I cut my hair short. I love my curls. I twirl them constantly because it calms me. But the physical sensation of long hair on my neck or face can become unbearable when I'm overstimulated. Cutting my hair wasn't about style or confidence. It was about coping. And just to be clear, I do love dressing up. I love makeup. I just feel safer and calmer with familiarity. Looking back, I've always had physical ways of soothing myself. As a child, I would constantly suck my bottom lip until it became sore. And I bit my nails down until they bled. These weren't bad habits. They were automatic ways my body tried to regulate when I felt overwhelmed. Even now as an adult, nail biting is something I struggle with. That's why I get my nails done professionally every month. Not for vanity, but because it's stopped me hurting myself. Creativity has always been my outlet. Singing, writing, poetry, stories, art. I also had very intense interests that brought me comfort and focus. When those things were mocked and taken away, it hurt deeply. When I have space for creativity, I cope better. When I don't, everything feels heavier. There were times in my life, especially when I was younger, when the pain of feeling misunderstood felt unbearable. I don't see those moments now as wanting to die, but as wanting the overwhelm and shame to stop. Having safety, faith, and a loving husband has changed that completely. I don't believe God made a mistake when he made me. I'm not seeking an autism or possibly ADHD assessment because I hate myself or think I'm broken. I'm seeking clarity. I need language for my experiences. I need to know that I'm not alone. And I want to live with compassion instead of self-blame. Understanding myself helps me show up better as a wife, as a mom, and as a person of faith. This week I went for my first GP appointment to talk about all of this. That might not seem like a big thing to some people, but for me it was huge. Right now I'm waiting to be assessed for autism. I don't have answers yet, and that's okay. What matters is that I finally spoke up for myself. I stopped ignoring what my body and my mind has been trying to tell me for years. I'm listening now, and my faith has played such a big part in giving me courage to take that step. I also want to say this because it matters to me, especially as a Christian. A lot of the time, neurodivergent people are spoken about as if we need to be healed. I don't believe God made a mistake when creating our brains. I believe we are fearfully and wonderfully made, even when our minds work differently. That doesn't mean we don't struggle. It doesn't mean we don't need support, understanding, or compassion. And it doesn't mean we don't need Jesus. We absolutely do. But it does mean our differences isn't a defect. It's a part of how God formed us. Life hasn't made me less neurodivergent. It's helped me love myself with more grace. God meets us where we are, not where we think we should be. And people like me, people with minds that feel loud, sensitive, intense, or different, we belong to. If you're quiet, overwhelmed, or feel unseen, you're not alone. Understanding yourself isn't selfish, it's healing. This isn't about labels for attention. It's about understanding, acceptance, and making space for people like me who learn to survive by staying quiet. If this has helped even one person feel seen, it's worth telling. Thank you for listening, and you're welcome here. So don't forget to subscribe.